So at the start of the movie, we see an astronaut called John. He just came out of his hibernation pod, and after getting fresh, he came to the control room of his spaceship from where he met his two co-pilots. These three were busy with the maintenance work of their spaceship, and they had to go to the planet Saturn's moon. Their mission was to reach there and collect natural resources from there which could be brought back to the world. And their journey was going to last for about 9 years. In such a long journey, most of the people used to spend their time sleeping after 3 months. People used to come out of their hibernation pods, check the maintenance of their spaceship, and report it to Earth after doing this. These people used to sleep again for 90 days to get such a long sleep of hibernation. They had to use drugs after doing all the work here. We see that John is confused when he asks Nash. He says that he can't remember his girlfriend's full name, and he can't remember his girlfriend's voice. Nash says, "It's okay, the drugs we take for hibernation have a side effect because of which we can forget a lot of things, but don't worry. You'll remember it anyway." After checking all the systems of his spaceship, John reports to Earth that everything is fine here. These people are on the Slingshot. That is, the path is on the path on which they will reach Saturn's moon. After giving his report, these people had to sleep again before going to sleep. John remembers when he and his girlfriend Zoe met for the first time and how they met. Zoe was his office colleague and his mission trainer. After remembering all this, he finally remembers Zoe's full name, after which he goes back to sleep in his hibernation pod. Now, when these people woke up from their hibernation, the next time John was the first to wake up, he was feeling dizzy because of sleeping too much to stabilize himself. He sat nearby. Suddenly, his spaceship got a strong shock, and when John looked up, a ceiling screw was coming out the ceiling panel, comes out like this and hits his head. And he is unconscious there when his two companions come out of hibernation. They find him unconscious. They also saw the broken ceiling panel above. How did all this happen? To find out, these people go to the control room and check the footage of CCTV cameras, and then they find out that their spaceship got a very big shock, because of which a lot of internal parts of the spaceship got damaged. To find out to what extent the ship was damaged, when these people turn on the ship's computer, the computer was not giving them any information about the ship's damage. And after knowing this, Nash became very paranoid. He got scared because he felt that the ship's computer was not telling him about a lot of things, and in such a difficult time, his life could be in danger now. Nash believed that the ship was no longer capable of surviving, and if these people continue the Slingshot and try to reach Saturn's moon, then they will die on the way. When John regains consciousness, Nash tells John that his ship is no longer capable of moving forward. There are some very big faults in his ship in such a situation. If they continue the journey, they will die. He also discussed this with his captain, Frank, but Frank refused to go back to Earth. He says to John, "You believe me, our life is in danger. We have only one way. That is that we will get up 12 hours before the next hibernation from the captain and reprogram the ship and slingshot it towards Earth." John agrees to what Nash says, but only on the condition that he himself will check everything first, and if, as he says, there is really something wrong with this ship, then only he will help Nash. Now, according to the plan, the next time these people get up 12 hours earlier, Nash's condition was very bad at this time. He was very panicked because he felt that the ship system was not working anymore, and these people would die soon. But here John calms him down and then checks the entire system of the ship himself. According to him, there was no such problem in the ship, because of which he left his mission in the middle. Now, these two were just talking that suddenly Captain Frank also came behind them, seeing whom these two got scared because they still had a lot of time to wake up. Captain Frank then tells them that last time when these people were sitting in the kitchen and talking, Captain Frank had heard all their talks and liked them. They also set the time to leave their hibernation pod 12 hours earlier. Now Frank tells John that there is no such problem in the ship, because of which they had to abort this mission. John also agrees to what he says, and here Frank promises him that if there is any problem in the mission, then I myself will turn the spaceship back to Earth. As soon as these people were talking, we see on the other side that Nash's condition has worsened. He is panicking because he feels that if these people continue their mission, then they will die soon. They should go back to Earth immediately. Frank comes and forcibly controls his condition, and now after a while we see that John's condition was also getting worse. He was also hallucinating, as if his girlfriend was sleeping in the spaceship with him. Although he knew that this was not true, now he squeezes under the ceiling panel, because of which he was already unconscious. The ceiling panel was attached to him. Thinking about Nash's words, he opens the ceiling panel and goes to check whether there was any damage or not. When he went inside, he saw that a lot of stars were sparking before he could do anything because of the spark. There is a huge damage, and the spaceship breaks from the outside. The inner gravity was not working here. The pressure coming from the outside was pulling John towards itself, but John was holding some parts of the spaceship and was trying to keep himself inside the spaceship, but soon he failed to save himself and suddenly fell into space outside the spaceship. As soon as he fell outside, John actually regains consciousness, and we know that all this we saw was just John's hallucinations. These people now want to go back to their hibernation pod. When they woke up the next morning, they found out that their mission's peak time had come. They had to change their slingshot, i.e., they had to change the orbit on which they were traveling. Nash was not in everyone's favor because he was feeling that there was something wrong with his spaceship, but Captain Frank and John were not in favor of leaving this mission in the middle. That's why they do all the calculations alone and then change the slingshot. There's a huge shock in their spaceship, and a lot of alarms start ringing in the spaceship. The system of the spaceship was giving signals to overload, but then Captain Frank did not stop this mission and pressed the button to keep it continued. Nash thought that they would die now, but the next moment they found out that they had safely changed their slingshot, i.e. changed their path. This was a huge success for them, which they celebrate here. For the next few days, they had to stay awake to keep an eye on their path. John exercises here to divert his mind and tries to keep himself as busy as possible, but now his mental condition was not allowing him to do much. He was hallucinating as if Zoe was behind him. Then Captain Frank reassures him that Zoe is not in the spaceship. On the other hand, in an empty space, we see Nash, whose condition was getting worse when John asks. He tells that now he has forgotten his parents' names and even their faces, and John tells him that you know. Then Nash replies, how can I make you believe that something really bad is happening to me? I am not feeling well. I can't even understand my numbers. And they were talking that they call Captain Frank in the control room. There was something wrong in their calculations, which could have changed their slingshot. John and Nash fix their calculations here, and then Nash tells them that their system's low-level command reactor is failing, and all these problems are happening because of it. Now John was aware of this, and his condition was getting worse. Captain Frank knew that they were going to go back to Earth, so he takes out his gun and blackmails them to go to their hibernation pod. John goes to their hibernation pod, but before going there, he saw that Frank was torturing Nash. Frank attacked Nash with a gun, and he fell on John's hibernation pod. After this, John couldn't see what happened because he was asleep. The next time when John woke up, he couldn't see anything. Suddenly, Captain Frank came behind him, to whom he asked about Nash. Frank told him that Nash was very unstable, so he was forced to lock him in the hibernation pod. After saying this, John goes to his work, i.e., to the maintenance work, where he noticed that his arm was strangely blue. Maybe it was the effect of his hibernation drugs. Suddenly, his arm gets black, and his eyes get filled, and he takes a strange alien-like face, which John himself got scared. But the next minute he found out that it was just his hallucination. His arm was absolutely fine. Now John was getting hallucinations. Like before, he loved Zoe very much, but Zoe was not coming out. And then Frank tells him a very painful fact, that he and Zoe never had a relationship. Actually, Zoe was his mission trainer, and the company told him to meet John in public places so that he can find out about John's mental health and find out if he is suitable for this mission. After hearing this, John goes crazy with anger. Please stay away from my personal matters. John now came back to the control room because he had to attend his radio system. He wanted to focus on his work, but Zoe and her memories were disturbing him again and again. Now he was entangled in all these thoughts that someone contacts him through the radio and asks him a lot of questions. Before John could answer even a single question, John did not say anything. And then Frank tells him, now it's time for you to go back to the hibernation cycle. John did not want to go back to the hibernation, but he also wanted to know to what extent can Captain Frank go to convince him. That's why he locks Frank in the control room and tells him, I will go to the hibernation pod when you introduce me to Nash. Then Frank says, listen to me, go to sleep. Now next time when you wake up, I will introduce you to him. Now for both of us, let's not wake him up until we reach Saturn's moon. Here Frank tries to convince John to open the door and then points a gun at him and forces him to go to the hibernation pod. John saw how when Nash did not listen to him, Frank attacked him. Now to save himself, Frank tries to take his weapon from his hand. A good fight starts between the two, and to take the gun, he breaks Frank's nose, because of which he fainted. He was now hallucinating like crazy. Zoe and different things. He goes back to the control room and tries to find Nash through CCTV footage. Before he could find Nash, Frank came back here. Frank was about to attack him, but before that, John attacked Frank and beat him so badly that he died. He did not want anything to go wrong. He went back to the control panel and asked AI about his other crew members. Knowing this, he realized that there was no other crew member in this ship. There is only one crew member, and that is John. When John asks his full name, he finds out that his full name was John. Frank, Nash, the two characters that we have seen so far, were hallucinations. As soon as John finds out that he was hallucinating and that he is alone in the ship, he breaks down. He contacted AI because he did not understand what was happening to him. On the other hand, Zoe answers, actually, there was a problem in his system due to which John was given a higher dose of hibernation drugs, and because of that he was hallucinating. After knowing all this, he tells Zoe that he does not want to continue this mission anymore. He wants to come back to Earth, and then he finds out that he was not in any spaceship. To train him for space travel, he was kept in a facility, which was like a spaceship. The special compartment of this facility, which was made like a spaceship, was made about 1,000 feet inside the ground, so that all the effects of hibernation drugs and hibernation could be clearly seen. John was very confused about all this. He tells Zoe that he is able to see Jupiter in space. There's a slingshot in front of him. He tells her that what he is seeing is just a part of his hallucination. After hearing all this, we come to know that the first time when the ship was hit by an earthquake and the ceiling panel of the ship broke, it was due to an earthquake. And when John went to look for the cameras due to these earthquakes, he did not find anything special due to that earthquake. John's contact with the headquarters also broke, and Zoe could not tell him anything about the overdose. Zoe tells him that he can easily come out of this facility. The door to the airlock will bring you out of this facility, according to Zoe. As soon as he opens the door and starts going out, another man, Frank, comes in front of him. Frank forbade him to go out, warned him not to go out, but John thought that he was still hallucinating. So he came out. There was a broken place outside. There was a mechanical system around it, and the radio was telling him to believe in him, and that he will be taken out of the facility before he could move forward. A monkey comes in front of him, and at this time he realizes that what he just heard and saw was his hallucination. He was really in a space mission in space, and just by telling us, the film story ends here. Thanks for watching. More video, please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon. Thanks.